You're saying the government would be too small to stop Trump. If Trump's the president, why would the government, the bureaucracy, be actively trying to stop him?
Because he is shredding the Constitution and creating an authoritarian dictatorship.
What's happening, everybody? Scott Jennings once again joined the panel on CNN's Newsnight with Abby Phillip. This time, Scott Jennings hilariously uses the other panel members' own words to dunk on them and exposes their incomprehensible lack of basic political knowledge. Really, after this, you're going to wonder who vets the people they invite on this show. Anyway, let's watch Scott Jennings annihilate another CNN panel.
About cutting money, right? It's not about spending. It's about shrinking government so that it'll be too small to stop Trump with whatever else is in this plan.
Why would the government stop Trump? Isn't he the head of the government? You're saying the government would be too small to stop Trump. If Trump's the president, why would the government, the bureaucracy, be actively trying to stop him?
Because he is shredding the Constitution and creating an authoritarian dictatorship. That's why.
And no matter who is in office, I'm going to hold them accountable. But more importantly, I'm going to make sure the government is working for the American people.
Both of you all made an interesting point, which is that your view is that Trump is shredding the Constitution. I'd like to hear more about that. But that it seems to me that you all both believe that the unelected part of our government, the bureaucracy, has a responsibility to resist the political leadership. Is that your view?
That's not actually what we
not
said.
at all.
We said they are
Yeah,
upholding the Constitution, the principles of the Constitution, and at times
How is
we have
Trump
seen,
shredding the Constitution?
my God, he's like.
I mean, seriously, do we have to
believe in
give
the
you a
balance of
civics
power,
lesson
Scott.
that we have?
I don't know,
We put all power in the executive
How is
branch.
holding the
The legislative branch, the FBI. Now we're in control of the military. We're
Yes.
silencing media.
Commander-in-Chief,
This is
head of
what
the
you
military.
do
It's a
in a
great part of power.
dictatorship.
Are
This
you
is not.
suggesting that the president is not the commander-in-chief of the military?
I am suggesting that the president is going to put in charge somebody who is going to contravene the Constitution. And at some near point, this conversation will look very silly for you because it will be obvious. And right now, you're
Wait,
gaslighting.
he's gonna
but when we
put-
get to the actual
He's
rubber
gonna
of the
put-
road of
I'm
this,
sorry.
it will be clear.
I'm interested in this conversation. He's going to put someone in charge who will contravene the Constitution. Like, who? What do you mean by that? The president is in charge of the military, is he not? You said he's going to put someone in charge of the military?
The president is in charge of the military. That is how it works.
He was elected president. We, according to the Constitution, vest all executive authority in a president. And the concept that the military should be an independent agency or that the bureaucracy should resist the political leadership of this government is extraordinarily dangerous.
That's what we said. That's a straw
not what
man.
we
It's
said.
That's literally
ridiculous.
not what we said.
I'm just repeating back to you your own
I
words.
did not.
You see what I mean? Now, because that clip was so short, don't worry if you hate hearing me talk. I've got two more great Scott Jennings clips for you. A couple comments on this and I'll get to them. How about that guy saying, you're going to look stupid in the near future and you're gaslighting? I'm being 100% serious here. Maybe I don't understand the term gaslighting, but I don't see how using their own words to formulate a question is gaslighting. Maybe you guys will let me know. I really don't get it. When Scott said, are you suggesting that the president isn't the commander-in-chief of the military? Did you see the guy's face? There is no question that he had zero knowledge of the fact that the president of the United States controls the U.S. military. I mean, I presume the guy knew what they were going to be talking about and did some preparation for this show, but apparently he thought good old faithful Donald Trump's an authoritarian and shredding the Constitution was enough to battle Scott Jennings with. Now, had this guy taken a second to break down the term commander-in-chief, I think that pretty much gives it away, but that's just me. And seeing his lack of knowledge, maybe he's never heard the term commander-in-chief. I've noticed yet another pattern on the MSNBC, CNN panel shows. All the people that are on these panels, besides Scott Jennings, talk about are like unbelievably outrageous things that they think could happen down the road. It's like, I used to say, oh, they're scaring the American people. They're in their own heads. They're terrifying themselves. I so rarely see Democrats saying, all right, this is a situation. Donald Trump is president. How do we work within the framework of our government as it stands right now? All they do is worry about stuff, make stuff up, and complain about a fantasy world that doesn't exist, or complain about the things that Trump is doing that he told everyone on the campaign trail he was going to do. You have nothing better to talk about. You don't have any suggestions. You don't have any statements that begin with, look, I don't like what Donald Trump is doing. I think we should be doing XYZ. It's never that. It's just complaints. So next we're going to check one out on Laura Coates Live on CNN, where Scott Jennings gives his thoughts on that Zelensky-Trump-Vance meeting that was super contentious. Check it out.
I don't know if he needs an apology. He needs Zelensky to recognize the position that he's in.
Which to you is what?
We're their patron. We're their best hope for the killing to stop and for them to emerge from this sovereign and prosperous. And we're also their best hope as a business partner. I mean, all Zelensky had to do today was put on a tie, show up, smile, say thank you, sign the papers, and have lunch. That's it. And he couldn't do that. And this followed 10 days of being difficult in private and now 1 day of being stupid in public. This did not have to go down this way.
Okay.
And however you feel about why it started, why it's going on, who's right and who's wrong, we can help them in this and come out okay on the other side, and he's making it hard.
Now, first of all,
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I actually agree with Scott. And everything that he said was basically right.
Wow.
I know. I'm going to get killed on social media for admitting that, but so be it.
follow through on something, and he is not.
yeah,
so that was his point.
Well, I have a short answer on this.
Yeah,
and then
go ahead.
So the short answer is the Trump administration believes that if Ukraine goes into business with the United States, that in and of itself is a security guarantee. If your interests become our interests, we're going to be interested in making sure our interests are secure. So it would have been wise for him to understand the economic deal, the mineral deal, is a security guarantee in and of itself. And he lost sight of that today in the argument. Premeditated.
I don't know.
I think Zelensky misplayed it in the room, and you can and we could disagree about J.D. Vance's position on it or agree on it. But either way, Zelensky certainly had been briefed on what the right way to handle this was, and all he had to do was walk in there and say, "Thank you. I'm really grateful to be here. We want to be partners with the United States. We're grateful for your leadership. Where's the papers, and what are we having for lunch?" That's all he had to do. And look, the posturing doesn't have to occur now. If he is serious about wanting peace and ending this war, you don't have to keep posturing as a tough guy. Everybody knows you're tough, all right? The Ukrainians are tough. They're brave. They're fighting a much larger country. Everybody knows. The question for Zelensky is, can you take off the military uniform and put on the uniform of diplomacy? He failed the test today.
Here's what I don't get. How do Democrats or those that vehemently oppose Donald Trump not understand why Zelensky's behavior and attitude in that meeting were so wildly inappropriate? There's one reason that this little rascal even has a country where he can play president. The United States of America. The mineral deal that Trump offered was a no effing brainer. It gives us access to the $1 trillion of minerals they're sitting on, and in return, we'll continue to give economic and security assistance. I know, lefties, how dare the United States actually get something other than a corrupt, entitled douchebag lining his pockets in return for the more than $83 billion that's been dispersed to Ukraine. And don't forget, the more than $100 billion that's been allocated. Still hasn't been dispersed yet. If you know, in the comments, help me understand, as a normal American, who would possibly disagree with this proposal? So this last clip is a CNN panel freaking out over the reforms that Donald Trump has made to White House press access. And Scott Jennings, as always, is the voice of reason and sets everyone straight.
Baker, who is a longtime foreign correspondent. He covers the White House for the New York Times. He said, having served as a Moscow correspondent in the early days of Putin's reign, this reminds me of how the Kremlin took over its own press pool and made sure that only compliant journalists were given access.
Okay, can we just address this dictator business? I'm going to quote from some statistics put together. So our old friend Chris Cillizza, who calculated that in the first month of the Trump administration, the president took 1,009 questions. Hardly dictatorial behavior. Same stat for Joe Biden, 141. And I would remind you all that in 2023, the Biden administration revoked the hard passes of 442 journalists. And at the time, the White House Correspondents Association took, quote, a non-committal stance. So if you're worried about transparency, Trump is being far more transparent than any recent administration.
Why were their press passes revoked?
I don't know.
Was it because they didn't go to the White House frequently? Because
I
that
don't know.
happens
They lost their access.
That happens in every administration.
They lost their access.
Besides,
So,
442.
Biden people never called on James Rosen from Newsmax, and he's a real legitimate
but James
reporter. They
Rosen
never called on him.
was allowed in the White
press
House.
room.
This is just another example of how there are folks in the media with whom Trump can't do anything right. Can you imagine if Trump's administration was as quiet/secretive as Joe Biden's? That would be the criticism. Well, what are they hiding? Why don't we see the president? Donald Trump answers every question I've ever seen him asked. Not just, what flavor of ice cream is that, Mr. President? Bottom line, most transparent administration I've seen in my lifetime, full stop. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about any of these topics. Scott Jennings' performance in general, the meeting with Zelensky in the White House's press access reforms, and I'd definitely love to hear you think about that idiot who wasn't aware that the president is in charge of the military. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you like watching goats like Scott Jennings make fools of a bunch of liberals on CNN, then click on one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. Otherwise, as always, I've got the best viewers on the planet. I really, really appreciate you taking a couple minutes out of your day to watch my video. It means everything to me. Never forget, Jesus loves you. I'll see you guys.